We hear proverbs all the time, right? These little bits of wisdom that get passed down. But every now and then, you find one that has a really dramatic and honestly a super practical story behind it. So today, let's get into one of the most famous ones.
I'm sure you've heard this one. It's been around for literally thousands of years, all the way back to thinkers like Aristotle and the old Aesop's fables. See, back in ancient Greece, when the swallow showed up, it was a huge deal. It was the first real sign that winter was over and warm weather was finally coming back. But here's the thing. This proverb isn't a celebration, it's a warning.
Because knowing the actual story behind the saying, well, that's what gives it its real power. It changes it from just some old-fashioned phrase into a sharp tool you can actually use to make better decisions in your own life.
At its heart, the story is a classic fable about two main characters, a pretty reckless young man and a single solitary bird. And what happens between them teaches us this massive lesson about hope, risk, and the real danger of only seeing what you want to see.
Okay, so what's so brilliant about this story is how it breaks down these two figures. The young man is what the fable calls a boon companion. Basically, his entire sense of self is built on what other people think of him, on keeping up appearances. And the swallow? The swallow isn't fake, it's not a lie. It's what we'd call a singular data point. It's one piece of real evidence, sure, but it is not the whole truth. And mixing those two things up? Well, that is a recipe for absolute disaster.
So here's how the tragedy plays out. You've got this young guy who's completely blown through all his money just trying to impress his friends. He's broke. All he has left are the clothes on his back, and he's getting desperate. And then he sees it. One single swallow chirping away, and he thinks, that's it. Summer is here. I'm saved. So what does he do? He sells his last valuable thing, his warm winter cloak, for a little bit of cash to keep the party going. But of course, a few days later, a brutal frost comes back with a vengeance. The story ends with both the foolish young man and that poor bird shivering, facing death in the cold.
It's a simple story, right? But the psychological lesson packed inside it is so deep. It's about a mental trap that, honestly, every single one of us can fall into, especially when we're feeling stressed or desperate.
And here it is. The core mistake is something called impulsive generalization. Think about it. The young man didn't actually see summer. He saw a hint of summer and then bet his entire life on it. He took one tiny positive sign and built his whole strategy around it. When we are desperate for something to be true, our ability to tell the difference between a fluke and an actual trend it goes right out the window.
And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? This is a textbook case of confirmation bias. He wanted it to be summer so badly so he could fix his money problems and keep up his social status that he just grabbed the very first piece of evidence that confirmed his wish and ignored everything else. He wasn't looking for the truth. He was just looking for an excuse.
So this brings the question right to our doorstep. What's your winter cloak? What are the essential protections you have? Your savings, your boundaries, your backup plans? Are you ever tempted to just sell them off, to liquidate them, all because of one good day? One little sign of hope? It's a really powerful question to sit with for a minute.
All right, so let's take this out of ancient Greece and see how this trap shows up in our world today. Because trust me, the swallows we chase now just look a little different.
You can see this fable play out everywhere. In our personal lives. It's maybe quitting your stable job because one of your videos went viral. That viral moment is the swallow, but the frost is when the market goes cold again. Or interpersonally, it's deciding that a toxic friend or family member has completely changed just because they were nice to you for one afternoon. You sell your cloak, your boundaries, only to get frozen out when their old patterns come right back. And professionally, it's a company betting the farm on a new product after one amazing week of sales, only to discover the novelty wears off and demand just disappears.
The lesson here actually gets bigger than just our own psychology. It points to a much deeper wisdom about how the world itself actually works. It's about recognizing the fundamental patterns of life.
The universe, it tends to move in waves, not straight lines. The foolish bet is to see the crest of a wave and think you're now at a new, permanent sea level. But the wise observation is to understand the whole cycle, that after every single crest, there's a trough. Real wisdom is knowing that seasons change, markets go up and down, and moods shift. It's all a cycle.
And this is maybe the biggest takeaway of all. If you really want to know the truth of a situation, don't stare at the exception, the one amazing day or the one awful moment. You have to look for the average. Look for the pattern, the trend over time. That's where reality lives. The exception? That's just a visitor passing through.
Okay, so this is all great, but how do we actually apply it?
How do we learn to see the swallow, smile, enjoy its song, but keep our cloak on until summer is really, truly here to stay?
Here are some really powerful mantras to kind of build into your thinking. Think of them like programming your own mind for better decisions. I make decisions based on patterns, not singular events. Or, I protect my winter resources until warmth is here to stay. These aren't just fluffy affirmations. They are actual decision-making frameworks. They protect you from your own worst impulses and from that constant pressure to perform.
And I just love this final thought. It's so poetic. Maybe we should watch the sky longer than we watch the bird. The bird, that's the exciting thing, the single event that grabs all of our attention. But the sky's the bigger picture. It's the overall climate, the true state of things. Wisdom is learning how to shift our focus from that one fleeting data point to the stable, overarching pattern.
And this is the final idea I really want to leave you with. That first sign of hope, it isn't the finish line. More often than not, it's a test of our patience, of our discipline. True, lasting success, that real warmth of summer, it doesn't belong to the person who jumps the gun. It belongs to those who have the wisdom to protect themselves through the cold, unpredictable days of spring. It belongs to those who wait for the whole season, not just the first bird.